Hey, what's going on, guys? We're running coming back with another video. Today we're going to be doing a mock draft just to get these mock drafts, see how things are going, up to the Super Bowl game prior to the Super Bowl. So let's take a look. Let's see. Okay, let's enter. Okay, and let's start. First overall pick. What I'm hearing is Tennessee's probably going to go with the quarterback. Will Levis is not looking like he's going to be the future for this team. So I really think that coming in, they're probably going to go with the quarterback. They're going to go quarterback. Is it Shedeur? Is it Cam Ward? What's going on? And this is without trades, without anything, because you don't know what could happen. I think in this situation, I think they go best quarterback available. I think the quarterback that's been proven to be more reliable, and they go with Cam Ward in this situation. Now, here, Cleveland, what I'm hearing is they might trade this pick. They might do a lot of things, but, it all depends, who they pick. And I think in this situation, they probably will go quarterback, being that, especially with how things are going in with Deshaun Watson potentially being out for the rest of the season, I see them going with quarterback here. If everything stays the same, no trades, they take Shedeur. Now here, I have Giants. I don't think they take a quarterback first round. There's been a lot of talk about them taking Jackson Dart second round, who is definitely a solid quarterback pickup. They have a lot of potential. Team is not looking that good, but do they take the chance to take the best overall player, in my opinion, in this draft with Travis Hunter, best overall player, not best player at his position, but best overall player, and have the player that can play potentially two ways. Some games sometimes play one way more than the other, or do they take quarterback? And I don't think that they take quarterback in this situation. They got to take Travis Hunter, a two-way player, easy pickup here. Things that that New England needs to pick up is definitely like offensive tackle. Kevin, they need receivers also, but I really think working on that offensive line for them might be the best pick. I think Will Campbell could potentially be a star. Kelvin Banks had a solid season this year, but it's Combine will definitely give one more than another. I don't know that well, but I think they probably will go the better overall one right now with Will Smith. Now, Jacksonville Jaguars, who will they take? I don't see them taking anything. They signed Trevor Lawrence to a massive deal. They're not going to get rid of him. Edge rushers potential, but you also have Will Johnson right here, who I don't remember if he was injured this season or not, but coming into this draft was considered the number one overall prospect. It did go down a bit, but Michigan had a very down year, and I think that they could easily take Will Johnson. I feel like Will Johnson is a big need for this team. This team does need to work on their secondary. Their defense definitely could help out their offense in a way. So I really think they go Will Johnson here. Now here, I think they could take a risk and get a quarterback. It all depends on how the combine looks. Quinn Ewers has got the potential to be better. Milroe has shown I don't see Milroe as that quarterback. You have corners, not really a big thing. Wide receivers, you have two tight ends and Michael Myers and Brock Bowers who can play, who are good. Having a tight end isn't really having a receiver might not be something that you want to pick up here, especially with 6th overall pick. Potentially getting someone who could be a lot better. Work on your team a lot. Running back, again, you could take Ashton Jeanty. But this is a very risky pick. I think you take a player that will be solid and who will have a solid career. And I think that's got to be Abdul Carter. He was doing great for Penn State, great edge rusher. Yeah, you still have Max Crosby, but he could work on the other side. And Max Crosby's also getting up there in age. Now with the Jets, again, do they go quarterback here? You were able to draft Jordan Travis last year, but again, you didn't play him at all, and you know that because of his injury, he was projected to be a day 2 quarterback. Ended up going day 3, but was mainly because of his injury. Had a great performance at FSU. So I really think that this team is definitely going to go focus more on the front guys. I think Mason Graham is looking good. Defensively, they didn't look as good as they could have.
Mason Graham might be the pick. They could also go Kelvin Banks, but I think Mason Graham is probably the better overall pick for them. Carolina Panthers. Uh, it's a crazy statement, but it's like um, Mac McMillan was looking so good this season and just was such a dominant receiver. Give Bryce Young another target that's young. I mean, you had some good Xavier Leggett looked really good, but give him another target. You do have Adam Thielen who has games when he's good, but he's a great vet to have in the locker room to help with these young receivers. Now, here with New Orleans, I mean, you have Derek Carr for a long contract. Do you want to keep Spencer Rattler for this? Do you want to keep Spencer Rattler? Do you think that he's the future? Do you think he's a backup? What do you want to do? I think this is a position where this team could go at any which way. I think that they could easily do something. They could go edge. They could go. There's a lot of ways that this team can go. I think potentially they might go with offensive tackle. I mean, a player that can help this team overall who's in a position where you have a solid running back in Alvin Kamara. I mean, you have a player like Taysom Hill who has solid longevity. Need to build and protect these players. I think part of the problem is that their offensive line is just letting guys get in and hitting the quarterback, running back hard, and it's causing a lot of injuries to their best players. So that's why that. Now, Chicago, I mean, this team is definitely trying to think. Like, I don't think that they take Genty here. I mean, Genty would be a great pickup for this team. I don't see them going that way. I mean, I definitely would like to see them go offensive tackle, but Joshua Simmons, national champion, but I don't see him edge. Let's say, you got Mikael Williams, who's a solid player who I think they could potentially go for. Not a lot of good interior defensive linemen, offensive linemen. I mean, probably Malachi Williams is probably the best player for them. Now, looking here, I mean, this team, there's a lot of players that they don't really need. A lot of injuries caused this team to lose. So I really think that they probably go with something, probably go Joshua Simmons. I mean, he's a solid player, national champion. Now, here's where I think Genty goes. I think Genty goes to this Dallas Cowboys team. I think that this is definitely a place for him, a solid place for him to go. He's a great overall player. Now, let's take a look. And I think Dolphins, 13th pick, get a safety, a player that could help this defense out a lot. Okay? Now, I don't think that this is where you can't take a tight end right now would be pretty high. I mean, yeah, Tyler Warren had a great year, but I don't believe that he was the best tight end in all of college last year. There's a lot of debate about who was the best college tight end last year, which is very, not normally one just stands out, and I just don't think that he was. So let's see. I mean, you got McCovey, you had two tight ends. If you're looking for safety, safety's not. There's only one good safety early on. Corners, I mean, not really. Edges. I mean, you do have Jamison Pearson, who I think probably could be the player that they take is Jamison Pearson. Because taking a tight end this early in the first round is very, very hard to say. Atlanta Falcons, I mean, a team that doesn't need offense is really looking for defense. Really, so I think that they go Jalen Walker. I mean, focus on defense really because that's this team's weak point. Now, let's take a look at this. Arizona, I mean, they've got a lot of young, good talent on the offensive side. I mean, maybe build up their offensive tackles, interior offensive line. A lot of these things are things that they need. I mean, Kenneth Grant, a solid D lineman. I don't see them. I think that they go with probably the best edge rusher. I mean, they definitely need somebody really to work on their defensive side because defensively, in their front seven, it's not very strong. So then they go Nick Sorton. Yeah, Bengals, I don't see them going wide receiver. I mean, it really all depends on what happens with, what's his name? T. Higgins. It really all depends because, because if he stays with the team, they're not going to draft wide receiver. But, because you have two good receivers. I think that what they're going to focus on more is their offensive score is defense, and they're probably going to go with Kenneth Grant. I mean, definitely help them out. You're in a division where run heavy. You have Ravens and Browns, and you have Steelers. 3 solid running backs on all those teams. Next up, we got Seattle. Seattle doesn't really need a receiver. I mean, they just got Jackson Smith and Jigba. And then they also have DK Metcalf. Yeah, DK Metcalf's not that good. They have a second receiver now, like a second ranked receiver. They definitely focusing more on their offensive line. Interior, is something that they probably should focus on is their offensive line, is because that's really something that they could work on. I think they probably go with Josh Cornley Jr. I mean, he's a solid player, solid ball player. Definitely, on that Oregon team that went undefeated during the regular season. Tampa Bay, I mean, they don't need a receiver. I mean, you have Mike Evans, who's looked good, and then their rookie receiver did a great job filling in for Chris Godwin. I don't see them going for a receiver in this situation. I think they focus more on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you have Benjamin Morrison, who, helped get this Notre Dame team to the national championship. You got, Samir Stewart, who was looking good. There's Jack Sawyer also, who played a big role in the Ohio State national championship run for them. Do you want to take that? Or you got linebackers. Not a lot of good linebackers coming out this year. I think they got to go Benjamin Morrison. Work on the secondary. Now here's where I think that they go. I mean, I think this is where Denver possibly goes with. They probably go with a solid receiver with Luther Burden, who's just had a solid season at Missouri when they started off so strong. Next up, Pittsburgh. I mean, they're probably going to go back-to-back receivers, and Mecca looks really good. I mean, give whoever their quarterback's going to be, if it's either Russell, it's either Fields, who's going to be, but Mecca's a solid receiver. He's never been seen coming into Ohio State. He was potentially going to be the number 1 receiver. Now he's not, and then he just ended up never being that number 1 receiver, but he still has the potential, and it seems like, and it does seem like when players are playing with the Steelers, for some reason, they've just had really good receivers. So I gotta say that Emeka's probably gonna go there. Next up, Chargers. This is where I think a tight end goes, and I think this is where Tyler Warren goes. I mean, they don't have a good tight end right now after losing Hunter Henry to Patriots a couple years ago. They really haven't had a good, solid tight end since then. I think that this is where they definitely go with it. Next up, Green Bay. I mean, this is easy to say, secondary, they were really good this year, but I think Sherman Stewart is probably the best pickup for them, giving that pressure, allowing McKinney and their other DBs to get those interceptions. Right here, you have Minnesota. I mean, again, this is another place where, you think a DB would be good. This team definitely struggled against the run. Oh no, they played. I don't know. I thought they were Tampa. But this team definitely could. He needs to draft somebody that's got to be big. I don't know if they go with Siobhan Reveille. Yeah, he could be a solid corner. But the other thing is he hasn't played against. He's not in the power. Wasn't in the Power 4. Hasn't really had to play against some hard teams, and that's where a problem comes in. Defensive lines. You have some good players. Definitely something that could help out. Maybe Walter Nolan could be good. I mean, yeah, let's go with Walter Nolan. Texans, I think that they work on the offensive line, offensive, defensive line. I mean, that's really where I think Tyler Booker probably would be it. I mean, definitely on a down year for Alabama up front. I think he was a solid player. Okay. Rams, I mean, again, just another team that'll need some players. I think that they possibly, it all depends, what happens with what's going on in the offseason. Is Matt Stafford going to retire? What is going to happen? Because that could change, how they want to perceive it. Because there's the things, but it all depends. I think, let's look at linebackers. Edge, you still have some good players. I think you got to go with one of the better players here, and you got to go with a corner. Yeah, even though I just said, but what he can do, there's no way that he's. I mean, let's see what he could do. I mean, got to see how he plays in the combine. Okay. Ravens. I mean, definitely want to build up your up front. I mean, definitely something that you want to do with this team is definitely build up its up front and see what they could do. So probably taking like one of the better like offensive linemen, Carmen. I'm not really good at saying names. Now we got Detroit, a team who I don't know like what to pick up because this is definitely not an edge. You don't really need an edge, and I think Derek Carmen probably would be the best player. They have some solid secondaries, everything, but working on that up front, especially because of injuries, caused them a lot of things. Now, one thing that I could see is I think Washington could go with an offensive tackle right now. I mean, it's easy to say that when a team is, you have a mobile quarterback. If you can get a tackle that's good, especially on the left side, allowing him to not have to scramble as much out. I think that'll be the best side. I don't remember what side he plays on. Bills, I think there is no way. I don't know why they say quarterback when they do not need a quarterback. I think in this situation, you got to go, you don't really need a tight end. You don't need a quarterback. You don't need corners and edge is really where it's at. And I think where this team will go is probably, and I know this is a hot take, Jack Sawyer, who played phenomenal for that, what's it called? Ohio State in their national championship game. I just see him just being so good. Now, Eagles, I just don't see anything other than the fact that, they need to do a lot of things. They don't really need to work on their front seven of their defense. Their front seven's so good. I think, tackles, not a lot of good tackles are left. And it all depends. Interior offensive line, linebackers, they don't really need a linebacker. Edge, it's Mike Green, but it's not. But it's not really like they need him. Oh no, they need an edge because they have their defensive line. So I think they'd go with Mike Green in this situation. And then Kansas City, right now, I think that it says, go quarterback. This is suggestions are very silly sometimes. I think potentially working on their offensive line, definitely not something that they could do. There's not a lot of good players. I mean, could potentially go work on their defensive line. They are playing against some solid players, especially having to play Broncos twice, who's been looking good on both sides on the up front. So I think maybe getting Talik Williams could be good for this team. So yeah, guys, that was my predictions at my mock draft of the first round. I mean, let me know how you guys think I did. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.